said, okay, you can put sculptures in, show us what you're gonna do before it's final. So we have a call for entries on a national site called Online Juries, and on the 17th, which is 3 days away, that call for entry is gonna close, and then we're gonna get together on the 21st and review what we've got. Meanwhile, I heard from members of the Historical Commission, and they said, you can't put anything there. Because the terms of the land swap mean that you can't put anything there. So where things are at right now is that I think tonight the selectmen are gonna be discussing that location and other potential locations. I wanted to come and speak with you folks because one of the, as you look at Town Center, there have been a number of possible locations for the sculpture park. We wanted to start with 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces just to get it in place. These would be 2-year sort of loans from the sculptors, see how the town likes it. If they like it a lot, we could increase it. If they don't like it, we could let it stay or even say forget about it. The areas that we have looked at are little parts of the common, and the general approach of the selectmen is, but they kind of don't really want to see us do anything on the common, although that's not set in stone. The large areas of the common, they want to reserve for Truck Day, Celebrate Burlington Day, and other general uses. There are little corners of the common where trucks can't go anyway, so I don't think that it's closed for sure on using the common. Then there was a suggestion to put things in front of town buildings along Center Street, even all the way up to the rec building, which is certainly a possibility. There's another major area, which is Simons Park. And there are kind of more or less 2 areas there. Along 3A, there's a row of trees about 20, 30 feet from the stone wall that separates it from the sidewalk. And between the row of trees and the sidewalk is an area that even the Frisbee players don't use. It's just a nice open piece of land, and it's also very, very visible to traffic. I mean, one of the reasons why originally I was pushing for the idea of let's put the sculptures along the edge of Simons Park is that when that 10,000 cars a day drive through town, they would see them. It would have high visibility. And one of the downsides of the little field between Police and Grandview is it's not that visible. I mean, it's pretty visible as you drive around, but certainly not like 3A. The committee, as a group, liked the little field. So, and then we came up with this little potential problem, which is in the air right now. We don't know how it's gonna come down. So I wanted to ask you folks how you felt as a group and how you think the Simons Foundation would feel about putting sculptures somewhere along that park. Now, if the park was very popular, there's a lot of land there. There's a big hillside that faces the common. That's on the other side of where the Frisbee guys use it. And really, it's just a nice, pleasant hillside. Nobody really goes there. So the idea of putting sculptures there doesn't seem unreasonable. The only reason that one of the reasons that the committee, the Sculpture Park Committee, kind of leaned against it is that, you know, when you're standing there, the cars are going by. It's a little noisy. Whereas this other place, the field we picked out, is kind of quiet because it's, you know, it's off the road. But it's not clear that, you know, if a family wanted to visit the sculptures, they park up at the parking lot and walk down to the sculptures. Maybe it's really not a problem that there's some cars coming by. So we don't know what the selectmen are gonna decide. They may decide tonight even about whether we can go there or not. But I wanted to find out what you guys felt about if they say, okay, can't do it there, can't do it on the common. How do you feel about us coming over to Simons Park?
Okay, why don't you bring it up, so everyone sees exactly where
So
he's.
basically, I think that, well,
should have brought more copies, but basically, what we're talking about is, I have to get oriented here.
Right between the common, yep.
Right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
So here's the gas station, and here's the corner, and somewhere along this area here, now here you have the woods. There's enough room, believe it or not, between the trees and the road, but that would be secondary. That would be like if the town goes crazy and they just love it and they want more. We could extend it down here so that as you walk from the commercial town center to the civic town center, there would be a whole thing there. And if and when Building 19 new thing happens, it would be great for them too. But that's very much phase 2 or phase 3. For now, we want to try 3, 4, 5 pieces, maybe top 6 pieces. And it seemed like between that row of trees and the road would be very visible. And the other thing, the hillside I was talking about is kind of up here, because you know this is a very steep driveway, and it goes way, way down, so this hillside is almost like a little amphitheater. So that was the other possibility that we looked at. And the field that we're talking about that's in question right now is this one here, this little spot, which we thought was not so visible, but nice and comfortable for the kids.
So the hillside that wasn't used much, where is that located
The
that you were talking
hillside
about?
we think that's not used much would be right up here, because the Frisbee players are pretty much stick in here.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
this is pretty steep, they don't even go up there, really nobody uses
across
that.
from the island.
It's
Across-
just
across
grass
from the
right
island
now.
on, Camp Street.
Aren't there big rocks there?
I'm not
No,
aware
there,
of.
that's where the,
Oh, can I see
so it's right before the old, where the skate park was tucked up into the trees there on that rock. There is a hole for the disc golf. So they go from kind of the intersection behind the bus stop
Right.
at Bedford and Cambridge, and they go 100 yards straight up.
Right.
But their frisbees do go off into the road and both ways. But anyways, you know, if you were putting them along the driveway going up, if you were suggesting along the driveway on the way up, we do pull cars on and off there to park the lawn, but also,
Yeah, no.
you're talking further up.
Yeah, no, we weren't talking, because also then if people were walking, the cars coming up would be dangerous to them.
Right.
It's actually further in here. We thought if we did the hillside, people would park here
Mhm.
and then walk down to see them, or they could park along here. Now, one of the issues is that if you have a common here and then you have sculptures here, you're tempting people to cross 3A.
Right.
Which is not something I was terribly comfortable with, and still not. But we also know that eventually there's going to be a very serious crosswalk by the new Building 19, because people are going to be doing that. They're going to have to stop traffic there. So, again, that's another reason why the little spot, where is it, over here was popular, is because there's a lot of parking along here, and then you could just walk over there.
My only concern with one of my concerns with the front hill at Simon's, especially between the trees and the road, there
Yeah.
is like a 2.5-foot retaining wall
Yes.
on the sidewalk.
Be my
Is
concern, too.
encouraging people to go down there and that close to the road if, you know, families go down and someone decides, oh, I'm gonna jump off the wall onto the sidewalk, but
They're
trips
real
or
close.
whatever, they're very close to the road. So, as far as a safety aspect, I would be concerned with that area.
Right. What do you think about the hillside a little bit further up here?
I'd hate, I'd hate to give away potential, you know, we do have a lot of parking, overflow parking, and we try to take every spot available there.
Right. But the
so-
steepest part, I think, is too steep to park on, isn't it? Up here, because this is going pretty far uphill, so if we were tucked up here,
There is a planter, there's a big planter with a rhododendron in it, to the right of when you're looking at the basket from the hole, right to the right. Have you thought about the area on the other side of Olympia Way in front of the two banks?
oh, point out where that is?
So you would be next to the fire station. So fire station is right here. This little wedge right in here.
Yeah, actually, we have.
Because there is
that.
sidewalks
Yes.
accessible from the plaza that's there.
That wedge is definitely possible. However, when we were taking our walk, just as we were right about here, fire alarm went off and all the trucks came rumbling out, and that kind of turned people off a little bit. Also, the idea of having, you know, kids around here and in front of the fire, we were a little iffy on that one.
Sure.
I could see maybe one really big piece there, but not that people wouldn't be tempted to go right up to it. If people were interested in that, that's a possibility, but, so, you know, so those were the ideas. There was Simon's Park, there was corners of the common, there was in front of the town buildings, and then there was that little spot there, and potentially even going all the way right here in front of Rec.
Sure.
I think that Christine had checked with the foundation to see
how they felt about it. And I think she said, and this is going back 3 years, that she thought it would be okay.
Maybe, it's been years, so.
Right.
Yeah, can we fit it in between the trees in the street on Simon's Park, Brendan?
Well, that was his concern.
Yeah, that
It's
was
fine,
my
but it's
concern,
too
in between the
close.
trees and Cambridge Street. You might have 8 feet between the trees or 10 feet between the trees and there's a retaining wall that goes to the sidewalk, and then you're on to that was my concern, is if drawing kids and families up into that area in the proximity to Cambridge Street.
That might be tight.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
You probably think that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like that part of Simon's Park from the point of view of visibility. Because part of the idea is to say to ourselves as a town and to others that when you think of Burlington, instead of immediately everybody says the mall. That's what they say. It doesn't matter who you talk to from this eastern Massachusetts, they'll say the mall. And one of the goals of this is to change the reputation of the town from, the mall, to something else. And one of the other issues that came up was that all the other towns around, Wakefield, Stoneham, certainly Lexington and others, they have that 1890 town center with those pretty old buildings that were built back then. And we don't have it, because we were part of Woburn until too late. So we don't have that kind of recognizable town center like some of those towns. And like at this time of year, if you drive through, you'll see there's grass here and there's grass there, but it's not exactly clear what's there. In the summer, it's beautiful, but you know, in the fall and the winter, when the grass is not happy, it's not, and so we thought by decorating it, putting jewelry on it in the form of sculpture, we would enhance the whole center of town and make it more visually appealing, and people would start to say, instead of, oh, the mall, they'd say, oh, that's the cool town with the sculptures. And that was really the reason for pushing for the 3A location, because of the high visibility. But that's for cars, right? For people, so you're driving by, you'll see these cool sculptures and go, that's really neat. I really love driving by here in the morning, and they look different in the sun and with snow on them and everything else, that's fine. But it's not so ideal for going to visit them. Whereas the little place, that little field is much more ideal to actually take the kids and go over there. Question is, are the sculptures more interactive where you really would want to go over, or are they sort of look at them? And we won't even know what we're getting call for entries for another few days. So it's you know, I mean, this is a shot in the dark for everybody. It's completely experimental, and nobody's been against it, but there's been a lot of issues with the specifics. You know,
Okay.
I mean, to be honest, some members of the Historical Commission don't feel that modern sculptures should be anywhere near a historical building like Grandview. Most of the members of the Sculpture Committee don't agree with that. They feel that modern sculptures would contrast nicely with it and bring people to that, you know, make that part of town more visible.
I think Dave had a question, a comment.
How big were these sculptures gonna be?
I think we decided they would be kind of the height of a person holding an umbrella, so they might just touch the ceiling. Not huge, but
Like
big enough.
width? So is it,
Eh.
what do we,
Well, we don't know. Somebody could bring us something that's like a power, or it could be wider, but I would think something on the order of 10 feet, maybe 3, 4 feet wide, something like that. We don't really know until people submit.
Because if you look at the hill, and you're talking about the hill, at the angle,
Yeah.
how are they gonna be supported?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You got the safety issue going on. So
Right.
so that's all stuff that we would have to know about even before we'd even think about.
Well, what we said in the call for entry was that, assuming that they were gonna go on that little piece of lawn, which is pretty flat at a little tilt, that they have to just sit on the ground, because we didn't wanna get involved in pouring concrete footings for sculptures. If they're only gonna be there for 2 years, we said that the works have to sit on the ground. Now, I agree, on a steep hill, that would be a little bit of an issue. Something would have to happen. It depends on the specific works, and it is a little bit of it's a question, because we don't know what we're getting yet.
What about in the front of the human service building, after they do the new parking lot? Is that nice green past the patch that
We'd like to keep it green.
the planning board really wants that
So-
green grass and so forth?
Yeah, I don't think you would be taking up green grass, but I had a couple suggestions
Go ahead.
if I can. First of all, when, we like to think when people, they don't think of the Burlington Mall anymore, they think of Burlington Parks and Recreation, say, what a great Parks and Recreation department they have. But in all seriousness, I think you answered one of the spots. Historical Society, the museum, I mean, that's right there. They have a nice wide open side lawn there on Cambridge Street. But I think the Olympia Way, it might be a nice way to draw, and you might get some buy-in from the developer there. If they're looking to have smaller restaurants, coffee shops, and things like that, might be a nice conversation piece for people to walk over and look at. But also, you mentioned the library, and I know that's not on the on the beaten path. It's a little bit off, but they have a nice front lawn that I know our maintenance staff, and along with the library director, has tried to clean up a little. We've gotten rid of the hedges there that were snow magnets and for plowing, leaf magnets, and opened it up, and we donated a nice circular bench there, so possibility. Just trying to give you as many options as possible. In the human service front lawn, again, once that parking area is situated and they've redone the front there, that could be a possibility.
I want to say that one of the ideas that we had was to have, well, Christine's idea of it was more of a sculpture trail than a park, and she thought that if they were strung out in front of the town buildings, that we could also have one, so as people walk, we could lead them down to the library by having one maybe in front of the police station that might relate to the police in some thematic way, but then another one down by the library. It's not quite clear where it would go down there, but maybe somewhere down there. So the idea of having, the library director obviously loves the idea of putting something down by the library to draw people down there. He would like that. But where we're at now is kind of phase one. Where can we put 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 pieces and see how the town likes it?
Are you looking to group 3, 4, 5, 6 in one area, or were you looking to spread those out?
I think the initial idea was to have them in a group so that it forms a little park. It was more of a park than a trail, the way Christine
Right.
wanted it. So we were thinking a group in that little field would be a reasonable thing. I had thought, my own personal vision, which is just me, is that if they were along Cambridge Street on Simon's Park, that they would be not in a group, but strung out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you drive along, you go, ooh, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. The other thing, by the way, is that we're thinking if we can bring this to life on a regular 2-year basis, that we make it a big town event where people are excited to come out and see the new sculptures. The other thing we're asking the sculptures for is an option to purchase. If there's one or more than one that people really like, and we can tell that people really like it, we would then have the option to purchase it and make it permanent. Whether it's in that same spot or another spot, that would be still up in the air. But it's gonna be a big experiment. How do people react to it, you know? And I think that's a concern of the selectmen is, because they said to us, we're not gonna say yes until you show us the actual sculptures. Because, for all they know, we're gonna bring something weird in, and then people are gonna say, what are these people thinking? Which I can understand. So we're gonna, our point of view has been that this first group of sculptures is really critical in that it should really be something that people of all ages really like, that people are really happy with and excited about it. And so we're not likely to bring anything in that is of questionable taste, but taste is different to everybody. I mean, if you just have a big, let's say a big round red ball, some people say, I think it's wonderful, and somebody else is gonna say, well, it's just stupid, it's just a red ball. So what we've been pushing for colorful, possibly interactive. The problem with anything that moves is you have safety issues.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I'm receptive to it. Yeah, I know you put a lot of time into it, and I've seen them up in Meredith, New Hampshire. If you could get the Archie statue from Meredith, New Hampshire, I got my picture next to it. It was awesome. So next to Grandview Farms would be a beautiful spot for it. But if that doesn't work out, maybe we, the commissioners and staff, can now walk through the areas that you're suggesting, and then you can come back to us at another meeting if,
Well, what's gonna happen clearly is that tonight, I believe the selectmen are discussing this as well, because they have, the historical commission's arguments were, one, they didn't think modern sculpture belonged next to historical building. That can be clearly argued, and I gave them examples of, you've got the Louvre with a modern IMP building in front of the classic Louvre, and everybody loves it. When they first put the Eiffel Tower up, Parisians hated it, because it was ugly, and now it's the symbol of Paris. So I think you can argue that. The legality question, another whole thing. Some people's interpretation is that you cannot put anything ever there, but we don't think sculptures are structures exactly. They're really, you know, it's not like building a building. And as I said, we said to the sculptors, it has to be something we can put right on the ground. And the other thing about that spot is, because the police station is right there, you're gonna have less temptation for vandalism there than you would pretty much anywhere. Although, the truth is, the whole town center is very much in front of the police, so I think it's, I know there was a sculpture near the high school that did get vandalized at one time, I've been told.
oh, in the high school court, yeah.
Yes, when I was a student, I, of course, well, I never got caught doing anything like that, but.
Doesn't mean you didn't
Didn't I
do
say that
I
we're
did.
being recorded? I
Yes,
told
I
you
did.
that, okay.
Kevin.
You wanna confess to something?
Also, if we
Right.
do that Simons, that has to be approved by the Simons Trust, I would imagine. Anything we
Maybe.
do up there, they have to also approve it.
The Simons Trust,
Trust.
that was the next question, but I guess we would first get your approval and then go to them if that.
Right.
Now, here's the next little wrinkle in that, because we thought everything was fine, and we had gone in front of the selectmen and so forth, we had not included the historical commission, because it didn't occur to anybody. So we have put out this call for entries with a proposed opening of this park in June 2020. So I can see that if in fact we have to change locations or get more permissions, it's probably not gonna happen in June, which is not the end of the world, it would just be nice to keep it moving, is all, so.
All right, when you get your entries, and you get, Kevin Sheehan's part of our committee,
Right.
he'll get an email for it, right?
Yes.
He can forward us,
He's gonna be on the jury to help choose.
Yeah,
Because our
he-
committee's gonna choose.
yeah, he has had back problems and had to go home, so, he can forward them to us,
Right.
and then we can go from there. But I encourage everyone to go look at those spots now, so that, if it doesn't work out for you, we can have a good debate on it.
Do I understand, at one point, I had thought that what happens in Simons Park is completely under the jurisdiction of this commission. But then I was also told that no, it still requires the approval of the selectmen. What is your feeling on that? If-
No approval on the selectmen is, on Simon's Park,
On Simon's Park.
is my opinion, I think.
Certainly-
That's a good opinion.
I
It hasn't
think-
come up as a
The comments.
topic for us,
Well,
really.
let me say that under no circumstances would we want to purposely go around the selectmen and saying, yeah, we're gonna put it there, and you can't say anything. That would be very counterproductive. But I was curious what the actual legal situation is in terms of what happens in Simon's Park.
I think it would be the commission and Simon's Trust.
Right, so obviously Simon's Trust would, we want to make them aware of anything, and if they have feelings, and if it came down to there was a spot in Simon's Park, obviously you brought up vandalism. Vandalism is a concern anywhere. Even in Simon's Park, and it's not far from the police station, and, that would be a concern, and, if it gets to the point where Simon's Park is somewhere where that your group is looking and the commission is willing to give it a shot, I will reach out to the recreation, or to the, Simon's Trust and get their feedback as well. But I did have one other question. You talk about 2 years for is there a reason why the 2 years is a length of time? Do you think that holds some people back? Like if you get a sculpture and we're stuck with that for 2 years if we don't like it. Do you know what
I think basically, well, I'll tell you, one of the models has been the city of Skokie, Illinois, which is a little bit bigger than us, but not hugely bigger, a small city. And they have a public sculpture park, and that's what they do.
Mhm.
And it seems like to ask a sculptor for fairly short money, we're offering $2,500 as a stipend. They've got to create the thing in steel. If it's steel, it's very expensive stuff. They've got to create it, put it in a truck, drive it all the way up here, and then this is another thing that has to be discussed, is exactly who helps get it from the truck onto the ground. We're guessing DPW. And Barbara LaRue has talked to the head of DPW about whether they would help with that. That's a lot of hassle to go to for less than 2 years, basically. And that seemed to be in discussion with the New England Sculptor Association, that seemed to be a dollar number and a time period that seemed reasonable. We're just beginners, we don't really know.
Right. And then who would be responsible if there was vandalism?
We had talked to either the town attorney and/or town manager. We believe that the town insurance will cover it. As a matter of fact, that was a requirement of the New England Sculptors Association, because they actually put the call for entries on the national site for us. And they said that it was gonna be a requirement that the town insures these pieces, so. But, there's obviously questions that but we're not planning at this point, in the foreseeable future, that we would need lights or wiring. One of the points I was making is if this town wanted to build an art museum, it would cost $100 million, it would cost $5 million a year, and where would we put it and so forth? Might be a nice idea, might not. This is an art museum with no utilities, no staff. You just put the works out there and let them be. And the other point I made, it's like, well, we already have a sculpture park. We just don't have the sculptures. Because it really is a great place for them. And I look at it as just saying, okay, the Common and Simon's Park, they're like a beautiful person. We're just gonna put jewelry on the person. We're not gonna, somebody came to me and said, I heard you're gonna cut down the forest. And I said, the guy who's been fighting for Mary Cummings Park for 10 years is not gonna cut down one tree. Not one tree. The other thing we're talking about is having some public participation events, like maybe a few times a year, where we come out and we work with citizens, whether they're grown-ups or kids, to actually build what they call participatory sculptures. You actually build stuff for one day and then you take it down. We did a little of that at Town Day. We had these styrofoam things and we let kids come in and take them apart and put them back together. And there was one little girl, I said, you want to She was very, very, I don't know. I said, well, you can try it. She came over and spent the next 15 minutes being the little boss and say, put this one here, put this one there. It's wonderful. So I think that there's a lot of upside to it. So,
All right.
Thank
John,
you.
so you'll keep us updated.
yes, well, certainly at least through Kevin.
Yeah.
And we're very interested to see all the words. The word is that sculptors always put in their bids the night before the thing closes. So there may be almost nothing waiting for us, and then the morning after, there'll be sculptures.
All right, good luck.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so, any other public participation? Nope. Let's go to Director of Parks and Recreations report.
Thank you. Last week, we started the FY '21 budget season. There was a department heads meeting run by the town accountant, town administrator, members of the Board of Selectmen, and Ways and Means and School Committee were there. We did talk, or School Department, I should say, no committee members were there. They had met a few times in December to discuss a new sustainable budget model for the future and to set guidelines for this year, this coming year. The approved guideline allows for not more than a 3.5% budget increase blended between the town and the schools. So this is a guideline for the entire town. It doesn't mean each individual department's budget has a guideline of 3.5%. So I think what they're looking for really is to come up with a model going forward that works. Because currently, we've had, each department has kind of had an increase or been level funded, and what they do is, at the end of it all, when everyone has their budgets in, if there's a overage in what the budget request is, they have to figure out where they're gonna come up with that difference. If it's $500,000, $1 million, the town has to come up with it. So, and figure out what's gonna get cut out, what's gonna get left. So they're really looking to, put in a new model that's more sustainable, that can take us into the future without cutting services, which people, there's certain services people expect here in Burlington. So, we have our task cut out for us. We've started some initial conversations on the budget and hope to be able to present that hopefully at the latest by our first meeting in February and get that taken care of. We are going to try to work within the town guidelines, but we do have some increases needed in our field maintenance, as we've talked about over the last year, and we've taken steps to increase our field maintenance approach, and we've been able to do that out of the revolving account for the most part to this point. But we do need to, over the next couple budget cycles, start to increase our expenses as far as field maintenance is concerned, athletic field maintenance, fertilizing, grass seed, and we're hoping to take a lot of the manual labor as far as the aerating and stuff, start to bring that in-house a little more so that, we're not outsourcing that, we're taking that on. But the field maintenance aspect, the fertilizing, the treatments, whether it's lime or anything else that we're putting out there, right now that part of our budget needs to expand probably for the next 2 years, and we're going to have a conversation with the town administrator about that and looking at maybe a couple small increases over the next 2 years, possibly 3 years, to get us to a point where we kind of level out, we have enough money to maintain as we move forward with our field maintenance. We have had some conversations. The school fields still, they haven't come to a decision on how they, if they're willing to forego their organic, 100% organic approach. I know we had some brief conversations about contributing to the field maintenance in the schools. We do all the maintenance. We do all the upkeep of the fields, all the fertilizing and everything. And, there's nothing given from the school department. So we're putting out all the expenses for those. We've worked with Simon's Trust this past year. Our request included field maintenance money in there that they're willing to put forward for a couple of years as we build that budget. But eventually that will go away. So we need to keep that in mind as well. We're probably looking to add about $20,000 to our field maintenance budget for this year to cover the fields that we currently are have taken steps to improve, but also to add another field or two in there as well moving forward. So without having that conversation, with town administration and letting them understand, the town accountant, town administrator, letting them understand where we're going, we will be required to be level funded this year.
Okay, question for Rich. We have $15,000 in the budget from last year for fertilizer. We level funded it last year, then we spent all, but we reconditioned the fields, not normal maintenance. We
Right.
reconditioned.
Right.
Do you have a budget on what realistically we should be spending on fertilization?
Well, I think what Brendan's saying, the increase would only benefit the program. For years, we've done the bare minimum because we didn't have the funding to, get enough material on there. So I can actually get a number for you, yes, but I think the increase would only benefit. It goes back to the conversations we've had about picking and choosing where we're gonna focus our attention on instead of, spreading it out a little broader.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep on, we've always wanted to support you on
Yep.
fertilization. We adopted the organics
Yep.
because it would be a regular fertilization and we would have to follow. Is there a budget to do this right that should be in the budget that we should fight for at town
Right.
meeting?
Okay. Yeah, we'll
Because
work-
we level funded that amount last year.
No, I understand.
And I asked about it last year and we said the answer was that's enough money for here. If it's not enough, and we have to fight for something, we should fight for it.
Right.
It's-
So we will, in our planning software that's provided through Tom Irwin, it tells us the applications and the amounts. They budget that out for us. So we'll be able to pull those figures for, I believe they've updated all the FY, or the 2020 plans, spring, summer, and fall for the fields, as far as top dressing, weed treatments, and fertilizations for the 3 seasons, what will be out there. So we can pull that figure and, we could be talking, if we included all of our fields right off the bat, I'm trying to slowly bring this in, not slowly, but slowly bring it into our general fund request over the course of 2 or 3 years. So it's not and I'm just throwing a figure out there, it's, a $150,000 increase to our budget, that, maybe we roll out, looking at the numbers, $20,000 a year for the next 3 years, or $30,000 a year for the next 3 years. Bringing it on slowly, utilizing some revolving account funds to supplement it, but getting away from the reliance on the revolving account and putting it more into our general fund budget. But without taking that, $100,000 or $75,000 hit 1 year, I think it would work if we roll it in over the course of, 2 or 3 years.
Anyone?
Big question is, we gotta know from the school committee, because we wanna do ours, but we don't wanna be doing two different types of applications either.
Right.
We wanna be doing one set of applications where the guys are going out and working all the fields, so and getting money from the school committee out of their budget to do all, you know what I mean? We can't be all on us. We gotta sorta get on board as
I
a
agree.
town, what we're gonna do.
One solid
I mean, I
approach.
think, if they think we have to, and get up a solid number, because, I mean, you can see the difference. I mean, anybody who's walked the fields that we've done, it's like night and day. So I think the school committee, once they really have to get on board to even make this really work, to even come up with numbers, I think. I mean, it's crazy for us to do two separate type of things to the town fields, the school fields, and then the recreation fields.
To go, you know, so if they're not ready to go in the spring, we're gonna go out and aerate those fields and overseed, because we need, the school fields I'm talking about, because we need to chase the weeds that are in there, that we, you know, that's the big problem, is treating for weeds and being able to get rid of the weeds. So by overseeding in the spring, we're putting seed in the ground that's gonna compete with those weeds, and hopefully get some grass to germinate and take off, and then keep them watered and irrigated in the summer, and be ready to overseed again in the fall, and aerate again late, mid to late August, as the temperatures start to go down. Aerate, and we'll overseed again to get more seed in there. The more seed we're putting in, we're chasing out the weeds. But in the middle of the summer, if there's bare spots, that's where the weeds are gonna grow in, and they're gonna compete with the grass seed. So we need to be aggressive on our part as well, in treating it until we come to a point where we're able to be on the same page across the board with school and town fields. All town fields, school and recreation fields.
So, do we have a fertilization plan for the fields we have control of in a budget amount, so that we start April 1st fertilizing appropriately?
I think that's what you were saying, we could get the plan from.
Yeah, I believe they've uploaded 2020. If they haven't, I will ask them to put those figures together, and that's based on the fields that we're doing now. It's Wildwood, all of Simons, Rohannes, Upper, and then Veterans in Regan as well.
Right.
That's what we've already started.
That's what we've already done, so those budget,
We don't-
those,
And but we already approved that for the spring, haven't we, from last year?
we have funds left
From
from
the
the,
revolving account?
yes, we have funds left. We'll be okay to start the
Because
spring and go
That's
off.
very important to get that, because we don't want to lose, everything that we've done,
And Kevin, to your point, it's a square footage thing. It's a square footage calculation. So if we figure out center school is I think it's 2.9, almost 3 acres. And it's just a formula that you calculate for the acreage.
Right, so we can come up
Oh,
with
yes,
a budget.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
we get the budget, we appropriate the money, we need to get it done. It'll get.
Yep.
Okay. So,
I'm gonna-
budget, Brendan, you're talking about the budget, can we see the budget before you need a vote, so that it's not a last minute vote?
Oh, yeah. You will get it as soon as it is complete. So if there's any questions, we can get them answered. Our next meeting is the 27th of January. That's probably a little tight, just because we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna work this in there. And it's town meeting night, so if we can have something, we can. I'll try, but I'm guessing by February, or definitely by our February meeting, which is the 10th, February 10th, 12th.
You want a calendar, or, but does that give you enough time?
It should,
It's
yes.
the 10th, I think.
10th, Monday, yeah, because the 14th is a Friday, right?
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
I think
So-
it's the
Are
10th.
you already making plans?
Have to,
I'm impressed.
have to be prepared.
It's the 10th. Does the 10th give you enough time that we discuss it on the 10th and we vote on it on the 24th?
Yeah, I'd like to get it, get you the budget before the 10th if I can, and then make sure that you have, time to go through it. And if we have to add a meeting in between, be willing to do that, as well.
Okay. Everyone comfortable with that? Paul?
Yep.
I love you.
Back to-
It's turned a new leaf in the last quarter.
I guess so. Okay, next thing, Parks and Recreation Maintenance, Central Maintenance Update. There is a building committee meeting for the new facility, a kickoff meeting, construction kickoff meeting tomorrow. I know Dave got that, we'll be there 1 o'clock.
I'll be there. I never got an email.
No? Okay.
I haven't been getting my emails. I don't know what's going on.
All right.
From the town.
So we do have, we'll just be
But I'll be-
discussing the construction timeline, and other project information. We'll share that at our next meeting. We're still, capital planning, we're still waiting on some final numbers. I think two different articles. I should have the last one tomorrow. I think Rich is scheduled for that one as well, his last number tomorrow. And then, if you guys are willing and would like to have another, we had a meeting off our regular schedule, midday 2 years ago, just to discuss warrant articles. If you guys, there's a couple in there that might be some lengthy discussions, that come off of our 10-year capital plan.
So on the 10-year capital plan, which ones are you getting numbers
I'm
for?
looking at, the,
Shade structure?
we
Wildlife?
knocked that one around pretty good last year. Had a discussion, that wasn't one that I was thinking would take some time, probably, the passenger van, and then also, the, landscape architect, and the need for that, and what we're looking to accomplish with that, an updated, long-range plan. So, those were the two that I was thinking. The shade structures could, we did have the shade structure, come into play, in the middle of the summer last year, and looking at the, need for that going forward, and Wildwood being, the site that, was under discussion last year, and probably still would be. It's right out in the open. There's not a lot of shade on that playground at all.
Right. Treehouse area,
The treehouse would be through the Simons Trust. It's a special request of the trust. We'll be reaching out to them to have a meeting on that and see how they want to proceed. That is something that they discussed with us. I know our program staff came up with an idea for that, and Joshua Simons really liked it. We've utilized, a treehouse connection that he had. So that would be a special request through the trust. It wouldn't be a warrant article through town.
okay. And the tennis courts, is that gonna get pushed back another year, or is that?
I don't think so. That, we had more of the cracks are coming through, throughout this, last summer and fall, and as water gets in to the smaller ones, they become bigger. It's coming to be time. I think it's been 12 years since that court was last resurfaced. So it's not a complete, grinding of the surface and repacking and putting down a new surface on top. It's repairing the cracks that are there, in a new seal coat surface on it.
65,000?
We've gotten as low as 35,000 and as high as 65. So,
Can we get a quote on repaving the whole thing?
repaving the whole thing, we're probably talking over 120. The two that we repaved at Simons, 3 was 107. We're talking 6. So,
Easier to pave though, right? Compared to Simon's?
no, you'd have to take down all the fence.
Yeah, all the
So when we do this, is it gonna be a temporary solution or a permanent how many years are we gonna get out of a repair?
Well, I guess another 7 to 10.
Yeah, probably 7 to 10, about 5 to 10, 7 to 10,
Five.
in that ballpark.
And
So-
if we repaved, how many years would we get out of it?
Say 12. but it's been-
We got 12 years before cracks started showing through, or coming through.
Okay. Dave's thinking here.
I'm
Paul, are
thinking,
you thinking
I'm
anything?
thinking we just do the, I don't know, $130,000-$140,000 and $40,000.
So, and I have two different
Maybe it's
quotes
7
from
years.
two different companies. They use similar systems, you know, it's a mesh that they clean out the crack. Excuse me, they fill it, they put a mesh system over it, and then when they resurface it, the mesh system allows, you know, the crack to move if it has to underneath, expand and contract with the weather, but it doesn't come back through the surface.
And it doesn't affect the playability?
No, because it's under the latex court surface that will be put down, that color-coded surface.
Actually,
Okay.
the technology in that part of it too has really improved. Like, we used to, I don't know, we used to maybe get 3 years out of a repair, and now it's much better.
Okay. Just so we cover all the angles.
The next
Are
item.
you coming with the aerator too?
Yes, we'll have that, and that is to complement our larger aerator that we have that goes on the back of the tractor. This is a walk-behind model that is great for infields, even Little League outfields. You can do a Little League outfield within an hour. You can, walk behind. I think it goes 7 miles an hour
And
at the max,
it's
self-propelled.
4.5, 5 feet wide.
Wide, can be trailered and brought to parks. We can take care of the smaller outfields without tying up the tractor to drive all over town. We can, the larger the tractor can do the larger fields. It can do the backside of Marshall Simons, it can do Wildwood, it can do Rahanis, and we can take, Center School, we can take this smaller unit and go out and take care of all the Little League outfields, softball outfields, Marvin, Rotary. It can walk those in an hour with an operator, trailered, do it. It's, how many inches wide is it?
Okay, but you're gonna give us all
4
the back.
feet
Can we
long.
get all the backup before the meeting too?
Yep. Some of these were prices we were waiting, salesman on vacation and such,
We're gonna do
so.
a separate meeting for this?
Yeah, separate meeting?
Okay, at the end, can we come up with a date for a separate meeting? All right, so, we'll have everything ready to go for you. And like I said, I know my last one's coming in tomorrow, and I think Rich's is too. Once they're prepared, if I can get them out to you, like the end of this week, we'll get them out to you,
Okay.
okay? My next item is therapeutic recreation specialist. I'm sad to announce that Laura Rossiter, our therapeutic rec specialist, has informed us she's taken a job a little closer to home and will be leaving the Burlington Parks and Recreation Department later this month. She has worked tirelessly along with Kelly on building our therapeutic rec division, which is second to none in the state, and I would venture to say one of the top departments, if not the top, in New England as well, for a municipal recreation department and what we offer. We're obviously sorry to see her go, but we wish her the best of luck in her new position and moving forward. We have posted the position on the town's website, the Massachusetts Recreation and Park Association website, as well as the University of New Hampshire's Facebook page in their Department of Recreation Management and Policy Department. And the deadline for applications is January 23rd. We have some interviews even set up this week to kick it off, to get going. We really would like to have someone in place by the end of the month to take over for Laurel. So we do wish her the best of luck.
Yeah, disappointed she's leaving, but if she's happy in a new position, closer to home, I'm happy for her and thankful for everything she's done.
Yes.
Yeah, she's been awesome. That's a big blow, but I'm sure you guys will hire the right person.
Hope, we have some good candidates, so hopefully, it'll all work out.
Search committee, is that within you and Kelly and Jesse, or
Yep,
in human
Kel-
resources?
Kelly and I and HR will sit in on the interviews as well, and then Laurel's gonna sit in too to give her perspective. So
That's a good idea.
we have, like I said, there's some good candidates already, and, we are looking for a therapeutic rec specialist, someone that is certified already would be our top priority. Obviously with some municipal experience, some therapeutic recreation in a municipal setting would be great. There's a lot out there with clinical backgrounds, but, someone with some background in the municipal setting would be great.
Okay, great.
And my next item is the Community Theater Group of Burlington, which is formerly the Burlington Players, are looking to add a security camera to the lobby of their theater, focused on the ticket booth, as well as changing their locks to electronic locks. I'm just letting you guys know, I don't have a problem with it. They'll give us a combination lock so we can get in. From time to time, we have to get in to test fire, sprinklers, smoke detectors. I do a walkthrough twice a year with them just to go through and make sure that, they're keeping it clean and there's, it's easy to access. So I just wanted to let you guys know it's not gonna change the lease agreement at all. Actually, it makes it better for them and for us. So they do have some security lighting and stuff already in there, so adding a camera will be beneficial. But I just wanted to let you guys know.
Okay, and anyone have any issues?
Nope.
Dave, Paul? No. Okay,
And that is it for now.
okay, so, Park Superintendent report?
So basically, with the holidays, it's been a little crazy, but the guys have been out there working. We put out the field close signs throughout the town, basically to try to keep people off the fields. I'm sure that wasn't the case Saturday and Sunday with the weather, but the signs were in place. We also started a tree trimming project, which is underway. We're gonna go through every park, dead limbs, pruning. We're gonna take down some dead trees. This weather, actually, hopefully it'll keep, so we've had an opportunity to get outside and do some work. Starting on that, we moved the soccer goals from Marvin and Rotary and Wildwood Fields back to their spring locations, so they'll be ready to go for spring soccer. During the holiday break, the guys went and cleaned the Visco building. Gives us an opportunity, a little time to get in there, do some thorough cleaning, redoing the floors and such. Holiday lights were turned off on January 2nd, and we've actually, because of the weather, again, we've started removing the strings from the trees, which is a little bit ahead of schedule. That's not usually till like a February, March thing for us, so that's good. Also took down all the wreaths and all the holiday decorations from the common. Sorry. Another snowstorm, the guys were out plowing the town buildings and streets with the DPW. I think it was New Year's Eve or right around that time frame. And we've also started going through the equipment for the winter. It's our only opportunity to, do soup to nuts on every piece of equipment that we have, so that's underway. Going through everything from backpack posts, chainsaws, and larger equipment. And that'll be ongoing until we're back out there again in the spring.
All right, questions for Rich?
No.
Do we get our new tractor?
I'm sorry,
Our new tractor?
what new tractor?
Is it all on the road? The long grass cutting?
The Toro, or the Jake, the
Oh,
big
yes,
Jake.
I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
that's it.
apologize, that
Yeah.
did come in. I was.
It's not out
he said-
cutting.
He said mower.
Is it all everyone trained on it?
They're
as
gonna
much
come
as
in the spring,
possible?
they're gonna come in spring and do training. That was supposed to happen before the weather changed, but yeah.
They delivered it. You can't drive it without plates, so it really could only stay up at the garage. By the time the plates got here, there was snow on the ground, so can't really
No,
take it out.
they said they would come back in the springtime.
Right, no, but I'm saying we haven't gotten out on
Right.
it yet.
Right.
Right. And question, the red sleigh in front of the Historical Museum, do we own that or is that the Historicals?
Historical,
And they want to put it out like in that condition?
apparently.
Okay. Is it something we can fix?
I think it's something they wanna fix.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Someone asked me, why does it look like that? And
Yep,
it looks historical.
yes, it does.
Right. Okay.
All set?
I think you meant weathered. Weathered,
Weathered.
it looks weathered.
Okay. That's a
Thank you.
good word for it. Let's see. Programming report. Kelly.
Thank you. So I don't need to, but thank you very
You sure?
much. Yeah. Both our ski program and our basketball program kicked off. Both are running really well. Our numbers are higher than we expected for both programs, so that has been that's had a great response. We have started winter programming. We offered 32 new programs in the winter program guide. So that was exciting for us. However, some of them did need to be canceled, so I think we've canceled probably about 10 or 12 of them at this point. But other than that, winter program registration has been about the same as it typically is. So we are encouraged by the increase in ski and basketball, and we'll look to offer some more variety of programs for the winter next year. We are also planning for spring, so spring programs were due to me last week. So our spring brochure will go out probably mid-February, looking at late February, early March, spring registration. That's all I have.
Okay. Any big events?
We
Winter
have
Carnival,
well, we have the
you wanna-
Daddy-Daughter Dance on February 7th, which is full, with a large wait list. So we are looking at next year offering maybe 2 sessions of the Daddy-Daughter Dance to try and accommodate residents accordingly. The Winter Carnival will be on February 8th, and that'll be at Simons Park. We'll host a chili cook-off for that event once again this year, and we don't have anything in March. I'm not talking about that. I don't have a plan for it yet. And the next event after that would be the Easter egg hunt, and that will be probably, I think, April 8th, April 7th, April 8th, somewhere in there.
Okay. Questions for Kelly? No? Excellent. Chairman's report, just to remind everyone that you have to do your annual expense report. And if you didn't spend any money during the year, you can go up to the town clerk's office and sign the binder,
Okay,
the form.
thank you.
Right, Paul?
I didn't spend any money.
You've
No,
been
I'm
doing
just
this
puzzled.
for-
I don't recall having gone to the town hall and signed anything for expenses, because.
Yeah, if you didn't spend anything, you're supposed to, they have a report that you just add your name.
I'm not authorized to spend anything, so I wouldn't be able to.
Right.
No, really.
Okay.
I'm not So why should I say, you can't spend any money for that, but you gotta sign something saying you didn't? I'll be glad to do it. I would
Okay,
say.
well, it's just a reminder. And just the Community Preservation Act is, they're gonna go up to town meeting in May to ask to be on the November ballot. There would be a tax increase, and the state would match an according amount. This year, it's 33% of whatever is raised, and it would go towards recreation. We get 10% minimum, historical, housing, open space, and I'm probably missing something. So it's something that'll be coming up in May town meeting in November election, if everything goes right.
Not just majority vote wins.
Majority vote to get it to the November election, and then it would be a ballot item. All right, other subcommittees. We heard Brendan
Meeting-
always
meeting-
takes your stuff.
I know, I'm
Meeting
sorry.
tomorrow, that's fine, no, because.
It's at what time again?
1 o'clock.
Right.
So I'm excited about it. So get this underway. I was actually thinking about driving by there today to see if anything started, so, yeah, meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and hopefully we can get that started sooner than later. The weather's helped us a little bit, so I don't think the ground's frozen. Maybe we can get this thing going.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Paul, do you want to say anything?
No, I don't.
I love it. Okay, if there's any other new business, we took Sculpture Park out. No?
No.
Old business, the field permit application, did everyone get a copy of the revised edition that Brendan sent? No?
I never got that. But
Right
that's
there,
fine.
right on your right.
This is it, right?
Right there, on top now.
Yeah, this is good.
Yep.
So Brendan, you made a lot of changes, plus a policy change, I think. So do you want to start talking about it?
Yes, I would love to. So after our last meeting on December 9th, staff got together and began, the recreation staff had already started looking at the communities surrounding Burlington before this whole topic came up of the permit and clarifying what a nonprofit is, and then it grew from there. We had lots of suggestions in detailed conversation at our last meeting regarding the permit. So the staff has been working, like I said, since then to revamp it. It's gone through, I think we met at least 4 times. It's gone through a couple different edits, looked at consolidating some of the tiers because some of them overlapped. We looked at a fee structure and made some suggestions, put it all on here, going forward on possibly a way to generate a little more, or some revenue to go back into the fields. Looked at adding a fee chart so people knew right ahead of time what their fee would be for their event. So you'll find that on there. Clarification of who or what qualifies as a nonprofit group, insurance requirements, a statement on additional fees for staffing, portable toilets and other expenses, as we discussed at the last meeting, and then talked about what constitutes a special event. I believe at our last meeting, we said over 100 people would constitute a special event. We were in the process, Kelly had been working on, and her and I had been in discussion about a special event permit, and what that would look like, so now it really rolls in, and I think Kelly brought it up at the last meeting about, having a special event permit. So for those larger events that, sometimes we get approached by organizations, national organizations, and they want to hold an event in Burlington and what that would entail. But it's also, Burlington Youth Baseball and Softball, their family day. That's beyond their regular permit of using the field. They have, an inflatable, or if they have pony rides or whatever, dunk tanks, whatever else they bring in, it's beyond their typical use of the field. So that's what a special event permit would cover. But one of the biggest changes that we're proposing is a per participant per sport fee for Burlington youth sports groups. I think that's what you're referring to as far as policy, but this is just a suggestion. It doesn't have to be anything that's taken, but we wanted to get it on there so you could see what it would look like. And what this, we're one of the only communities, if not the only community in the area that does not have a fee for youth sports groups to utilize the fields. We absorb all the maintenance, all the electrical, costs associated with them. So we looked at different fee structures to talk about, and felt that a per hour fee wouldn't be fair. The larger youth sports groups would wind up paying more. Obviously, it would go to how much they'd use, but it might not be considered fair as to what they use, and it would be too expensive. And then a flat fee, might not be fair for the smaller groups. So we looked at a per player, per sport fee, just a flat fee per player. We proposed $15. This is not anything that would be set for the spring. It would not be something that would, be instituted without a large discussion from this commission, obviously having to approve it and say, yes, we want to move forward with, no, we don't. And then if you did want to proceed with it, discussions with the youth sports groups to let them know that it was coming and what it would entail. So we're probably looking, fall at the very earliest if it was something that you wanted to do. If not, starting next spring with that, so that it gave everyone that does early registration, fall registration for spring sports, it would give time for that. But we looked at it as a way to help, start that building of a sustainable budget, where we're not, increasing our general fund budget by leaps and bounds each year, in order to continue to maintain the fields at a rate that we feel is necessary to provide good, safe athletic fields, but put some of the responsibility back in the youth sports groups. So there's a lot in there. I don't know how you wanna take this down. Do we wanna start on the field permit application, the first page first, and look at changes there? We cleaned it up. We cleaned up the front page. A lot of the same information is there. We did add in a little over halfway down the page that events exceeding 100 participants are considered a special event and requires a special event permit. That was something that came out of our last meeting. And, we put it under estimated attendance. Once they get 100 people, they say 100 people are coming in, that triggers their, the special event, thank you, permit request. So that was obviously the right spot for that. But the other information in here is the same. We just cleaned it up a little, evened out the lines going across the permit application, just made it look nicer. So I don't know if we want to start there, if anyone has any questions.
This is the new one, this is the old one. So, disclaimer is exactly the same, I
Yes.
assume.
Yep.
The, this one's, you just cleaned it up. I
Right.
don't see much of a change in that. Do we follow up on the question, have you contacted the Board of Health to confirm?
We usually place a call to the Board of Health.
To confirm
If they
that-
tell us they're, gonna be serving, it's a company outing, they're gonna serve barbecue. We'll tell them they have to, and a lot of times, they'll send us a copy of their
Okay,
permit, before we even call.
all right, so everyone good with that page, Paul?
Yep.
Is
Okay.
there any other changes that I missed in our conversation there on that page?
I think the couple of other things would be add.
You concur with Rich, okay? On the next page, we previously had six tiers, I believe.
This,
Gotta get my copy of the old one, yes, 6 tiers, and we did narrow it down to 5. What we did was, Tier 1 was Parks and Recreation Department programs in Burlington Scholastic Sports, would be no permit fee. Tier 2 would be Burlington Youth Sports Organizations, and that's where we suggested the $15 per participant per season.
do you want feedback on that?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't like it.
okay.
We have to work our budget better. We've never charged, this is a totally brand-new thing. I'm against it. I wouldn't vote for it.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So we're adding $15 on, and this would be going towards our general budget, and this is where you're going to the other youth sports, saying we want this added on to whatever
No.
they charge.
This would be a per participant fee. The youth sports would contribute to our department to cover maintenance costs for the fields.
This is
So-
like for BBSA.
Yeah, BBSA,
Soccer,
lacrosse, soccer,
See, I didn't get this in advance, so I really haven't even,
Yeah, but you can
but
give
like,
your feedback if
my,
you want.
my feedback is, I wouldn't do it either, but I'm not against a fee. I think we'd have to talk about it more, whether it's, I wouldn't be, maybe $5, there's a lot of kids, that's a lot of, we don't wanna, and you, I don't know what other towns are doing, is there something that other,
Sure. Like I said, we're one of the only ones not looking at creative ways to help with our field maintenance costs, and we've definitely taken steps to increase what we do. I understand the budgeting, going through the budget. If it's gonna become difficult to get those monies in the budget, and get them approved, looking at alternative ways and creative ways. So Lexington is a $15 per participant. Natick is $5 to $10 per person. We didn't get any information from Concord. Needham is a $15 per resident, $20 if they're a non-resident playing. Peabody has just a $50 application fee. Sudbury is a $48 per person. Wellesley is a $30 per person. Clinics are $15 per person. And Arlington, these are groups that we got responses back from. Arlington does a $1.25 per participant. So, adult sports, some of these have adult sports fees as well. $15 per game, $100 per day. So these were we reached out to, I think, all surrounding towns, but these are the ones that responded to us.
so Woburn, Wilmington, Borica, none of our immediate direct towns?
So I think it's important to note that part of this came from the needs assessment that UNH provided us.
Yeah.
And these are all benchmarking communities, so they're similar in size, they're similar in breadth of programming. So Woburn, Billerica, like, they don't compare to us directly municipality to municipality as far as our rec departments are concerned. So these are
Well-
the communities that we took a look at.
I don't think our recreation, but we're talking youth sports, adding on to our youth sports to take care of our fields, where I think all the other towns all have fields, so, like I said, I'm not against a fee. I think $15, but like you said, $1.25, like, say if you have 3,000 kids at $15, that's, that's great, I mean, it's a lot of money, but then on the other hand, I would like to do a little bit more, or hear a little bit more research on what we should actually come up, whether we would act something like this. I don't know, especially with, we're missing a couple members, and discuss it more. Not against it, but I don't know, $15 is the number we're looking for.
So, obviously, we know it's not something
Right,
that was
yep.
gonna be instituted without a conversation. We're just hoping that people are open to that conversation, if people are open to, having a small fee, whatever it is, or a different idea on a fee, we wanna have that discussion. But keep an open mind to it as far as, it helping to, defray some of that budget hit that would be coming.
So, budget hit, are you gonna come in, last year's budget, we came in, you came in level on the maintenance, and we're more on the programming. And now you wanna recover by charging the youth sports. What's the budget gonna look like this year?
Well, we're not gonna recover everything we aren't looking to recover, just, that program proved to be successful, the field maintenance program, and we've increased it across the board. There will be, and I didn't talk about it before, there will be some, I'm sure, some additions to the program side as well. So we need to balance that, the program and the maintenance sides, as far as our needs going forward, in the budget. We're not looking to make up any,
Well-
difference on the backs of the youth sports. It's looking at, as we looked at our field permit application and what's contributed, what we do out there to have done to improve the fields and will continue to do, to keep them safe and playable. It was a idea that's put out there to help defray those costs.
Okay, so you went up 6.23 in programming and 0.55 in maintenance last year. What are we gonna do for maintenance this year in the budget?
I can't tell you that right now.
Okay, that's my concern.
Yep.
I don't wanna charge you sports. That's, Rich,
Is it the number, or is it the whole thought? Because the number is just what we did from the research.
the whole thought.
Okay. And it's not, Brendan, you seem to be focusing on the field maintenance. It's lighting and lining and chalk and paint and all that stuff is also involved, not just the conditions of the playing surfaces.
No, it's all the maintenance of the fields,
So-
cutting, everything.
My thought is, we're gonna put money into the fields, that we have to put money into the fields. So you look at this structure, $15 per participant, is it, if it, whatever the number, whether it's $2, $15, $50, that money's gotta be earmarked for strictly field maintenance. I don't want it to go, it doesn't go to programming, it doesn't, because if we could set this up to, until we get the fields the way we want them, I think there's still, we gotta figure out what the school committee's doing. And you say this, we don't have, high school sports has no fees. We're the only town around that has no fees, and I love that we don't have any fees, that the town still lets our kids play with no fees through our taxes. And then for us to, I guess you could say this is like, would it look like a tax? I would say to get something just a $5 thing just for the fields for temporary, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, until we get our fields up to par. That would be something I would be on board with. I would want this to be a constant thing, but until we get our fields the way we want them, and we get the budget, and we get the funding on a regular basis for the fields to come up to par, because it is such a big factor, and I don't have any problem with the $5 fee or something like that, whatever the commission, this is my own personal feeling, till we get to the fields the way we need them, to where they're safe, look good. So that's my only thing. I wouldn't charge $15 per person, but I'm not against some type of thing that would go towards the fields.
Right, so it would be earmarked for field maintenance, but currently what we're taking out of the revolving account is generated from programs.
Right.
And going into fields.
And that's why
So,
I don't
you know-
have a problem with that, but I don't know what the number is for baseball, softball. You're looking at, all of a sudden, we generate $60,000 from this $15. I don't know what the number is.
Right,
So that could be a little excessive, so, that may be something we could sit down and talk to the Burlington Baseball, all these other groups, and say, this is what we're thinking of doing. Just for the beginning, I don't know, I've just seen this, I don't.
yep.
Paul,
I
do you
think,
wanna say anything? It's
I would
important.
just say this, since this is a significant change, an issue, I would prefer that the whole board be here, because we can go back and forth, the three of us, but then they're not gonna hear any of
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
And I would just as soon put it to another meeting. And I would just say that we've complained a lot about the fields over the last 2 or 3 years. And we've said to the staff, the fields are not satisfactory. And so we've, made some improvements, and we've found out how we can make the fields better. But now we gotta figure out how to pay for it. And, naturally say, geez, I don't wanna have to make them pay any more, but I think I would prefer a lower fee, but some fee to start out. Say, you gotta pay $5 a kid or whatever. And maybe you only rate this amount this year, but then in a year or two, you say, we still need help with the fields and so forth, and so we're gonna increase that. Because like if you got 3 kids, and our neighborhood's changed, it's wonderful, we get all these young families in. And I saw one woman walking up the other corner yesterday, and she got 4 kids with her. And so if 2 or 3 of them are in, and it's 15, that's $45. And, she's got all her other costs.
Well, yeah,
So that's all.
they're
But-
doing
but-
soccer, they're doing
Yeah.
lacrosse, doing
Well,
baseball. But
So
that's,
that's,
yep,
that's gonna be discussed. Do you wanna talk about the other tiers?
yes, so just let me find out, that it wasn't,
no, I
it
know
was
where you're
all for
going.
discussion
Right, yeah,
purposes.
yeah.
So it can go
Okay.
up, down, it could stay the same, that, it was time that we had this, started a discussion on it, that's all. If it doesn't go anywhere, at the next meeting, everyone says, nope, we don't wanna do it, that's fine. But we need to be prepared to not be able to get everything that we need, increasing our budget, other ways. So we need to be open to, we're trying to be creative and open, ask you guys be open to different ways to generate some other revenues if we're looking to level fund our expenses, or the town is, so, just wanted to put it out there. So again, it wasn't like slid in there so that no one know, it was so we could have a discussion on it. The next one is tier 3. So we had an over 90%, over 60 but under 90%, and then under 60%, all these different levels. So we looked at consolidating this a little, and it's basically over 90% Burlington residents or Burlington businesses would be at a $25 per hour fee. So these requests would be accompanied by rosters, which we request now. Anyone that was over 90%, we requested a roster from anyways. And then private clinics, camps, and all other groups, there's a $25 application fee, so just, if it's approved, it's $25. And then you go down to this chart, and it bases it on the number of participants in the program, and then the fee charged by the organization. And this is based on a 2 hours of use. So let's say a national program came in and wanted to do something here, and they were charging $100 for a ticket, and they were gonna have over 200 people, or 200 people. We'd be looking at a permit of $2,000 for that event for them. If it's
For 2 hours.
for 2 hours. So they'd be generating, say it was 200 people and it was $100 for a ticket, it's at $20,000 they'd be generating. So 2,000, if you think about it in those terms, 2,000 isn't a lot for the permit for the space. But, you know, a small Cub Scout group that's 12 people, they want to rent a Little League field, say they want to have a kickball, or they want to have some kind of event. They're not charging anything, but a $20 permit fee isn't too much to ask to reserve the field and utilize the field. So, you know, there's some extremes, you know, but we looked at it as pretty fair across the board. We did it in increments of, you know, $50, the permit fees, and as it goes up, it goes, what did it come out to, 15%, did we say, the increases? Do you remember what the increases on this chart were? I thought I wrote it down, and I can't put my finger on it, but they're not huge increases. So that was tier 4. And then tier 5 was all events, including tournaments and nonprofit events. So these are your big ones. You know, you have a regional, we'll pick lacrosse group coming in, and they want to rent, you know, a turf field 2 nights a week in the summer for 4 hours. They're charging a participation fee for their athletes. A lot of times, and I just picking lacrosse, we could say baseball, soccer, whatever. You know, a lot of times, those are money makers for the individual running the league, and you know, they're utilizing our fields and you know, creating trash and, you know, maintenance needs, and so you know, those would be the ones that would be fall into tier 5 and would be a $25 application fee, and then be a special, that would fall under the special event permit as well. So that's how we kind of cleaned up the tiers. As I mentioned before, we had 6 tiers. We had, you know, over 90% residents, between 60 and 90%, and then everyone else. We didn't have a clarification really on the nonprofits. We do have a clarification down below the sliding chart here. We talk about lights and the fields that they're available at: Marvin, Rotary, Varsity, and Brush Fields in Simons Park. Lights in the policy manual, it says lights will be turned off by 11 p.m. and 10 p.m. for Simons Park. And then we do state on there that light fee is calculated at the current electrical rate. So whatever that is, if the electrical rates go up, obviously the fee will be a little higher. If they go down, a little lower. We talked at the last meeting, so we put the statement in there. Fees are approved by the Director of Parks and Recreation and are subject to review by the Recreation Commission. That was something that I believe we voted on for all tiers, so it is down below. Nonprofit, to qualify as a nonprofit, the organization must be registered as a nonprofit with the state of Massachusetts and provide a 501c certificate. The nonprofit organization is not Burlington-based. They must have a Burlington resident as the sponsor. The organization's name must match the name registered with the state of Massachusetts. That was something we discussed at the last meeting. I don't think we ever took a vote on it, but it was something we discussed. And then insurance, certificate of liability naming the town of Burlington, including all subsidiaries and affiliates, and all directors, officers, employees, and volunteers of such entities as an additional insured may be required. So for large events, it's 100% required. We think the Youth Sports League should probably be naming the town of Burlington. If they're not already, provide us with proof that they have insurance, and that they name the town of Burlington in their policy as an additional insured, since they are utilizing our fields. This would be, anyone that does a special event permit would be required to have insurance. It gets tricky, and I talked with the town's insurance carrier. You know, someone from Oracle calls us and says, you know, hey, we'd like to do our division against another division within Oracle, softball game. You know, can we utilize Marvin Field? Well, go up there, they'd fall in under a Burlington business there, they would, you know, figure out their fee in the chart, and then, you know, they could all sign a waiver, or the person from, you know, filling out the permit application could sign it. You know, do they cover everyone by their signature? It was a discussion we had with the insurance provider, and you know, or do we require insurance for that group? Then they have to go and find a binder for that day. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a gray area. He was gonna look, the insurance person that I dealt with for the town was gonna look into some other examples, but some towns require, you know, everyone, no matter what, if you use the field, you need to have insurance. If it's a, you know, private pickup softball game between the Hatfields and the McCoys, they need to provide, you know, someone needs to provide insurance to cover the event. So that, the insurance is a tricky one. You know, if we wanna just make the policy, if the commission wants to make the policy, everyone has to provide insurance, then, you know, all events require a proof of liability insurance, and it becomes, you know, costly to do anything. So,
Well, it's costly to us.
yeah,
What's the liability amount we're looking at per?
1 million, 3 million. So 1 million per occurrence, 3 million for the event.
And what's the usual rate on that?
I don't know, do you know what, you might get some more of them with the,
I think it varies. I think it varies on, like, comparing a youth sport league to a private
event,
camp
right.
compared to a nonprofit group. Like, it's gonna vary in the amount of people you have there. It's gonna vary on the risk of the event. And it varies from company to company. Like, there's really no way for us to give you a definitive number on that.
Because if we say, oh, go out and get insurance, and they come and they, you know, you say, wanna, you know, are they getting the right coverage? You know, they could be just, oh, you know, we're doing a football event, and, you
Right.
know, they're getting, you know, it's not really covering what they're supposed to cover. I don't know how that's.
so, yeah, I mean, they can search it. We used to have people, when I was in Marblehead, people would go online, fill out the information. There's online insurance providers that will provide you with that certificate of insurance. Obviously, they're not giving it to you until you pay them. But this wording has to be on there, so they're gonna, by just making sure that wording's on there, they're gonna ask, well, what is your event? You know, what are you looking to do? And they're gonna look at their tables and figure out what, assess that fee based on what your event is. Like, as Kelly mentioned, it's probably a little more for a flag football event than it would be to rent for, you know, a craft fair. Maybe not, but, you know, your risks on a flag football event, it's a little more physical than a craft fair unless they have some really good items, that people are gonna be.
Okay, so can you give us specifics? Okay, flag football, that event that went on Thanksgiving weekend, what would their charge be?
For that
Ba-
event? or
Based on
for-
that event?
So, well, they would have to prove a nonprofit. Is that what you're asking, or
No,
So
insurance?
we
let's,
can't give you that answer right now because the special event permit has not been
Has not been-
completed. So like,
yeah.
that would be included in the special event permit, and there would be a sliding fee for nonprofits, that is not currently on this permit.
okay, so let's go other.
So if you wanna go with like a soccer camp, like
Okay,
a
so
private
there's
camp.
a soccer camp during the summer that
Yep,
high school kids participate in?
yep.
What's the current fee they pay and what would the new fee be?
So they pay, okay, so it
So
depends
it-
on what the cost of it is.
Because we're affecting things here.
Right, so it depends on what the cost is to participate in that event. We talking like the Challenger soccer program that, or are you talking a captain's practice?
Well, this,
Just
isn't there,
The instructional camps, is that what you're talking about?
right, there's some instructional camps done by high school coaches from other towns, so they don't break the rules of training during the summer.
It-
There's a fee for that.
Right.
You're charging a fee. What's the fee? And what would the new fee be?
So, I don't know what they're charging,
So,
and
say,
what we're currently
Well, I
charging
think
for that.
would fall under a 90%.
Well, if they were 90% Burlington residents, then it, over 90% Burlington residents.
It could be a private clinic, though, too.
Right. So if it's a private clinic in there, it's gonna go by this chart, so you have to look and see, all right, they're charging $50 every participant. And they're gonna have 50 participants, so the fee would be $250,
For every 2
plus
hours.
the application fee, for every 2 hours, yes. If they were all Burlington residents, and their roster proved that, and they were 90%, residents, then you're looking at $25 per hour. So if they're 10 hours for the week, $250.
Even
so
though they could be making a profit?
Well, no,
Well-
I mean, that would be,
That's just one.
I think the scenario you gave is a little tough because
It
a
kinda
school-
happens, though.
it does, but it's a school sport essentially, right? But
No.
it would be
It can't be,
based-
it's not officially a school sport.
Then it would be a private clinic, in my mind.
They
Do you-
do those all the time, all over the place, because my grandkids were, they have summer programs, or my son, when he played hockey all year long. I mean, camps in the summer and everything else.
So they would, previously, I'm thinking of one on the old application, they would, there was, I wanna say Challenger Youth Soccer, or whatever, advertised a soccer program on the Burlington fields without getting a permit for it, that it was gonna take place in Burlington. They were charging $280 a participant, and they said they were gonna have 80 participants. And I think we figured out that was, I don't do the math.
I don't remember.
Like, are you doing that, Dave?
yeah, 280 times,
Let's use 80 as
80.
the number.
yeah, so they're making 280 times, what the hell's going on? Clear. Times, my calculator, 80. Why isn't this working?
I think 786,000 is the
Yeah.
right number.
All clear, 280, Am I,
What did you come
280
up with?
times 80, so that's $22,400.
Nobody likes to show off.
22,000? Yeah, so they were making that, and I think we had
On a
charged.
weekend?
For, I think it were 4 days and 5 hours a day, something like that. They weren't a lot, because they
What would
broke
we
it up.
be
They had a
charged?
couple hours in the morning and then a couple hours at night. So we'd be looking at, in that case,
Over 200, it would be $6,000 for every 2 hours and,
But not at 80,
No, at 80.
in the
At 80.
column to the left,
It would
so it
be-
would be 3,000.
3,000 times 5, we would charge them $15,000.
If they were gonna use 10 hours.
Which they did. Or we're gonna. Our fee would be 15,000.
And what was the number they were making?
22,000.
Almost 23,000. Probably wouldn't
Do we
land.
have anything we're gonna vote on tonight?
No, oh, the football game.
Yes,
Good luck.
it's half over.
Can, continuing this to the next meeting or the meeting after?
Yeah, we're gonna have to continue.
I make
That-
that, I make that.
That's
motion.
fine. So
Can
if
you
there's
keep-
some things you'd like us to look at,
I'd like a copy of all the permits that we hand out, that we could figure out who we're affecting with these new numbers.
I think you almost have need a special meeting just to do this, because, you know, if we're gonna get into specifics of all the numbers and everything else, it's gonna be, you know, a meeting in itself before we get to the other stuff.
Well, the Boy Scouts have a crossing over. Would they get charged? They stay overnight
would it
at,
be $25 an hour? Because they'd be 90% or more Burlington residents?
do we charge that now?
Wouldn't charge them to sleep over. Well, I mean, charge them for the time they're using the field during the day, you know, up until a certain point at night, because we're taking it from someone else, can't rent it. You know, would I
Okay.
rent them, would we charge them, I'm not saying me, to sleep over? Probably not, to be there overnight. But as far as, you know, see who we're affecting, we're gonna affect anyone that's typically rented, whether some groups are nicer than others or anything like that. That's not what you're getting at as far as who we're affecting, right? I mean,
Well,
we
we
have to
don't
look
wanna,
at it
we
as
also
a-
don't wanna price ourselves out of renting the fields. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So like, you know, they're making a lot of money,
No.
but we're not saying like, we're making a lot of money either,
Yeah.
you know?
We lost our quorum.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Do you want to make a motion to adjourn? And the next meeting would be January 27th,
we-
2020 at 6:30 at the high school.
yes.
Okay?
So move.
Okay. All in
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
That's a
Sorry
pretty
about
important
that.
game.
No, that's all right. And again, this is all for discussion
Yeah.
purposes, and, you know, I didn't expect anything but a conversation tonight. I didn't expect to vote on anything. But if there's
You know,
things that you'd like us to work
Even though we
on,
can't vote on it, can we set up a meeting
anyone sign?
for the, capital budget and maybe this? Aside.
We'll figure out a date.
Is that
Yeah.
did you
And
guys
I'm not getting any
initial these?
emails.
Yep.
I don't know why I ain't getting any emails, but I'm not getting any emails.
Check your spam. It's going to
So-
liquorcabinet.net, or whatever, liquor cabinet.
Verizon? At Verizon? I've
Yeah.
always gotten, I haven't gotten an email. That's why,
Need Paul to track Paul down for his,
Must be a big game.
National championship.
he must be,
Football's over in my heart.
he must have went to LSU or Clemson.
In my broken heart. feel his pain.
Here, just when he went to sit down here?
So, yeah, I don't understand why I'm not getting, but I checked my spam, I got nothing in my spam. So, I get all my email.
Is there another email?
I'm getting everything that I normally get.
Is there another email you want us to
That
send?
we can put both of them on? So that way, like, if you're not
You
getting
can
it
send it to my house, I guess.
in one place, you could get it in another? Do you want to email?
I don't know why, look at that in one.
Is there one you want me to put down here to try?
These are way back, you know, these are way back, but.
It would have been the 10th, was on Friday.
Yeah, so I looked at all Fridays, I didn't get anything on, that's usually when I look for
You
it.
should, yeah, you
But
should
today I
have texted
was
me,
like-
because it's
I was like,
always
you-
gonna go out on Fridays,
I
so.
know, so usually I see something from Nancy.
Didn't the field permit go up before that, though?
Field
Did you
permit
get
went
that
out
one?
last